We are higher power. We help hospital recruiters go from any interest to see you on Monday. It is obvious there is a huge physician shortage, and it is incredibly difficult for hospitals to hire doctors. It costs $180,000 a month, or $180,000 a month in lost revenue for every open MD position at a hospital. And on top of that, it takes a hospital about 4 to 6 months to fill an MD role. So you can just do the math on how expensive that is. So this is how hospital recruiting looks today. Subject line, radiologist opportunity, high dollar, triple dollar signs, very flexible. Dear Dr. Mark, I'll make it quick. You come to Palm Springs, California for $600,000. Are you interested? Call me, beat me, XOXO. And the reason why this is so impersonalized is that recruiting teams lack the data and insight to target doctors who are ready to move. Today, they just do cold outreach that's super manual. They just badger people like Mark with emails, and there's no personalization whatsoever. So what are we doing? We are tying together multiple provider databases and using AI and analytics to find obscure data points that show us how likely is someone to leave their job to work for our hospital client. And on top of that, we finish it off with automated outreach campaigns through multiple channels.
All right. Why don't we find a clinician? Why don't we pick Mount Sinai? Certainly not because one of our judges currently works there, just randomly. We wanted to create something that is super low lift from an integration standpoint, so we can start offering value right away. So we input the careers page of Mount Sinai, and then we pull the roles, the clinical roles that are available on there. These are 324 real clinical roles. In addition to actually pulling in the clinical roles, we also pull in key information, key data points about those roles that we can then use to match against. Let's say I'm looking for an internal medicine physician as the recruiter on behalf of this health system. Now, our system actually takes the database that we have created of providers that is also enriched with AI enriched with other data that is relevant for us, and matches it against the requirements of the role. We do kind of standard stuff. We look at licensure and years of experience and subspecialty and so on to figure out the match. But we also look at some kind of maybe non-intuitive some proxies for whether this clinician is actually interested in moving, how warm of a lead they actually are. So we look at things like, how recently have they updated their LinkedIn or their Doximity profile? How much do we think they're making, and how does that compare to what we're able to offer them? Maybe most controversially, have they been acquired by a private equity? Have their practice been acquired by a private equity firm, and therefore they might not be super happy with where they are at the moment? And so using all those data points, we compile a match score and an intent score, which is kind of cool. Match score says how good of a match this is. Intent score tells us this is a person who we think will actually be likely to switch. The other insight we had is that providers are actually most likely to move when recruited by other providers. So we created a social graph that actually looks at the warm connections that providers at the institution, say Mount Sinai, have with a particular candidate. And that's not just LinkedIn warm connections, but did they go to the same residency or med school, or were they at the same residency? Did they go to the same med school, et cetera, to find opportunities to connect warmly. So let's say Dr. Moskowitz over here, we see that they have, this is a real doctor, we see that they have 5 connections who currently are employed at Mount Sinai. We can actually, these are again real people, we can request an intro to those people using the folks who are currently employed at Mount Sinai. We can send a request and kind of continue looking through the candidate list. We can select whether we want other candidates reached out to or not. And once we get through the list, the coolest part is we can actually make this actionable. So this creates a campaign that allows us to reach out to providers. Now, we also realize that providers like hearing from other providers, whether they know them or not. And so we actually added in the ability here to for a provider to, or perhaps the medical director or CMO to log into their LinkedIn account or their Doximity account and reach out. We can reach out on their behalf. And the cool thing is we can sequence the outreach, so we can actually create drip campaigns coming from various providers at the organization to the candidate that are personalized based on their specialty and the requirements of the job. We're a little over time, so I'll pause here, but essentially we can launch the campaign and track it, and using all these different components, we've developed a way to find hard-to-find candidates and fill hard-to-fill roles using a combination of warm connections and highly personalized outreach that's also automated.